Recorded from the Oklahoma State University Stillwater campus, this is the Inside OSU podcast. Here are your hosts, Meghan Robinson and first Cowboy, Darren Shrum.
Welcome to the new Inside OSU podcast. I am Meghan Robinson, and I am so excited that we have added a co-host to the show, first Cowboy, Darren Shrum. Darren, thank you so much for agreeing to sit with me all year.
Hey, appreciate it, Meg. This is going to be awesome. I've been looking forward to this ever since you mentioned it to me back a few months ago, so here we go.
And football starts this week, so who better to have on the show than head football coach Mike Gundy. Coach, thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule to be here. We really appreciate it.
Well, I'm glad to be here. This is a cool spot, and looking forward to getting started with the season. So our players are excited, and a lot going on, but looking forward to the start.
Coach, you talk enough football throughout the week, so we figured let's leave football off the table today and just get to know who you are as a person. To me, summer officially ends with Labor Day weekend. So before we get into a little bit about you, how is your summer? We're still in it.
Summer's been good. I still have one son that's at home, and so I follow him around with his activities, and we get to the lake some. I did take a 4-day trip down to Florida, which is a little unusual, but we had a chance to get down there. So it's been really good. It goes really fast. You're young, but you'll understand when you get older, the summers start to go by really fast. But to a certain point, I get to where I'm really looking forward to football again, and I can only take so much time off, and then I have to get back, and that's kind of where we're at now.
You mentioned following your son around, and I think, Darren, you were saying that Stillwater High School played your high school.
My high school Friday night, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had a good game, two really good football teams, two of the best coached football teams, high school football teams I've seen in a long time, really good. Greenwood, Arkansas will have a chance to win a state championship this year over there. And it was a good game. Exciting game all the way through, so it was fun to watch. It's interesting in my situation with my youngest son. It's hard to realize that he's only has 10 or 11, 12, how many more games left in his career, and then I'm out of the raising children phase with high school or little league sports.
You had mentioned that, I heard it on a talk that you did the other day, that basically you're getting ready to be an empty nester.
That's right.
And Casey and I, we went through that for one semester. Then, of course, we picked up 25,000 kids the next semester. But we actually celebrated that semester. So what do you think's going to happen with you and Kristen?
Well, I work all the time, which, you're around us all the time. And then I'm with my children. I mean, that's what I do. I don't really have a hobby. I love being around my kids. Now, Gunner, my middle one, is still with us on the team, so I've kind of extended my life with him because I see him every day, which is fun. And then whatever direction Gage goes, but it's going to be tough for me because I love being around my own children and seeing them grow and develop. Now, I will say that for 18 years, the house has been full. Which is the way we wanted it. The boys are there, all their friends are there, they're eating, and they're loud and in the pool and playing music and playing games and things, and so that's been cool.
Right.
It'll be nice to have some quiet time, but I'm not sure how we'll be able to handle that. I have been told before that when you coach, as long as I've coached, that when your children move on, that the team becomes your family.
Right.
Then you start to spend more time with them because things you did with your children in the evenings, you'll look to do that with your team.
Sure. That's kind of the way it's turned out here with Casey and I with new kids. And so the summer for me was extremely boring, even though we got to go on a couple of vacations. But
you went to Hawaii.
Well, that was awesome, but that's only 10 days. The rest, I couldn't wait for the students to be back, the players to be back, just to see the youth and the vitality that they actually bring to the campus and just the whole city of Stillwater. So,
well, you guys have raised a bunch of children,
yes.
And so when you do it, as long as we've done it. So my first son was born in '96. So from then until now, we've been raising children, and that's all you do.
Right.
In my opinion, if you do it right, that's what you do, and so that's all you know. And you've seen this with the students here, and you've been very active around the athletic department and football, and you've kind of taken that on as a hobby now.
Sure, you bet.
And it keeps you busy. So, hopefully I'll be coaching a long time, and the players will become my new family with these guys moving on with their life.
You bet.
My parents have been empty nesters for probably 12 to 15 years now, doing the quick math. And I feel like it took some adjustment, but then they're traveling every weekend. They did a cross-country road trip last year. I know that coaching takes up most of your year, but is there anything you're sort of looking forward to doing once you have the freedom of not being a full-time parent?
The same thing that they're doing. I would like to see, at some point, I would like to take a month and go to Europe and just cover everywhere. Just cover it all. I'd like to take a week or two and go to the Scandinavian countries. I would like to take a week to go to Australia, and then like to take a week and go to New Zealand. Just different things like that. I hear Iceland's beautiful. So whether I'll get all that done or not, I don't know. Probably not, because I'm probably going to work a long time. That's what makes me happy. I like to work. But the travel side of it would be fun. And, you know, it's interesting. I would just as soon get in one of those, not a big motorhome, but like a luxury van. They have those luxury vans now, and put all my dogs in there and just drive 3 or 4 hours and stop. And, you know, some small town in Missouri or Iowa or whatever, and walk around the little Main Street area like Stillwater, grab something to eat, stay the night somewhere, and get up and go again. Travel all up the East Coast. Look at all the tradition. And I lived in Maryland for 4 years, so I spent a lot of time with all the history in that part of the country, but it wasn't enough time to see it all. I would enjoy doing that.
Well, I have travel recommendations for Iceland, Australia, and some places in Europe. So when it comes time, Coach, I got you.
Good. You been there?
I have.
Okay, well then I'll be getting in touch with you.
Yes, perfect. My mom has a list of all the restaurants that we've hit. So
Really?
yes, she keeps that in case anyone else goes. It's like, oh, I can tell you that exact restaurant in that city. She takes the business cards with her. And
So I know we're not interviewing you, but so was Iceland beautiful?
Iceland was beautiful. We went in February of 2019. So it was very cold, but I was living in Connecticut at the time. So it's like, well, it's not that much colder. It's just a little bit windier. So I highly recommend Iceland. And from Boston, it was a 4-hour, 5-hour flight. So it was super quick from the East Coast. But I recommend Iceland, Australia, Italy. I was just in Greece this summer. But
So I'm on the right track then.
yes.
Most definitely.
Yeah.
So you brought up Maryland, right? And so I'd forgotten that a little bit of your history. You went up there and coached a little bit. So that's a lot different than Midwest City, Stillwater,
Sure.
Oklahoma. So how was that?
So I was here coaching after playing, and then left and went to Baylor. And I was in Baylor 1 year, 1 season, and then left there and went to Maryland. And I was at Maryland 4 seasons. And it was a great experience because of all the East Coast history and a different type of lifestyle up there. In recruiting, I had Jersey, I had part of New York, and then I also went south down through the Tidewater area in Virginia.
Okay.
And they live really fast up there. They're always in a hurry. And the experience has been awesome to get to know those people. And you can just imagine, you call it like you want. When I went into Yonkers, New York, which is basically New York City, and they sent me in there to recruit a guy. And you can imagine when I went in and talked to the coaches, the first thing they were like, dude, where are you from? I mean,
Right.
it was real clear cut. I wasn't from that part of the country.
Right.
But I got to know them and enjoy those relationships in that part of the country. And there's so much to do, from all the Civil War and the Revolutionary War and Amish people. There's just so much history up there. It's a pretty cool place.
Sure.
It's so funny because you're talking about this area, and that's where I grew up. I grew up right outside of Philadelphia. So I felt that moving to Oklahoma, where people hear me and they're like, wait, what did you just say? That's so weird. But you talked about the history in that area. And something that Darren told me yesterday is that you're very big into the military and history and all of that. What interests you so much about the military?
So and I had Philadelphia. I spent most of my time, I stayed out in Conshohocken.
Yes,
Is,
it's like 10 minutes from where I grew up.
Conshohocken is where I stay. There's a Marriott there, and
Yes.
that's where I would go, and I'd go back and forth, Cherry Hill, go across, all that stuff. So my dad was a Navy guy and was training to fly fighter pilots. He was going to be a fighter pilot in the Navy, and then got through all the training. Then they could never get his blood pressure to stay below a certain level when he would get to a certain high elevation. So he couldn't do it. I mean, he had his license. He can fly planes. Well, he probably can't now, but he still had it. So I was raised that way. And when I guess, the discipline of that generation, but more so if you're military. And I was kind of raised that way. But then ever since I was really small, I can remember my dad telling me that you respect your flag, you respect the president, you respect the military. Doesn't make a difference who it is. That's just the way it is if you want to live in this country. That's the way I was raised. And so when I was young, we'd be at ball games, whether I was playing Little League sports or something, and they'd play the national anthem, you stood still, and you never took your eye off the flag till it was finished. It didn't make any difference. And if you were walking around and the national anthem started, you stopped. And I can remember being a young boy and being at games, and like the national anthem was going on and I was doing something, and then he'd hit me in the side of the head. And I was trained that way. It's interesting. Now I've instilled that in my boys, the importance of respect. And so that background has always stayed with me. And then if we sit and think, when we have issues, Desert Storm, the encounters that we've had prior to that, Korean, Vietnam, if you just think about, do you really want to go over there and do that? I mean, like, do you want to go fight? I don't have that. I'm not tough enough to go to another country, put that gear on, walk into what could be a storm, and not know what's out there and risk my life. And those people do that for the freedom for us in this country. So I think it's really, really, really important we understand we live a lifestyle in this country because of people that are willing to do that for us. It takes a special person to do that. If there's gunfire or there's a fire, I'm running away from it, not in it. Those people run in it. So I have a special place in my heart for people that are willing to fight for the freedom of this country.
I agree 1,000%. I mean, I feel the same way growing up in small town Arkansas. That's the way we were all taught. So you did mention flying. So I heard at one point you got to fly with the Blue Angels.
Awesome.
So your dad might have had a blood pressure issue, but I would have had a blood pressure issue if I'd have been in it. So how was that, and how did it impact you, and did you pass out or anything like that? Or
So it's interesting. You go through some training because we didn't have the the type of plane we were in. You don't have the luxury of having the oxygen mask. Okay, so you had to go through some training to prepare yourself to be able to breathe when they're pulling so many G's. It was one of the greatest things I've ever done in my life. Now, we did some turns and things where it pulled up to 7 G's. And G's didn't mean anything to me. All I knew was that meant that it was going to be like a force on you. And the best illustration for it was the biggest roller coaster you're on where you're going down, and it's pulling you back in your stomach. Those pull like 2 to 2.5 G's. These were pulling 7.
Jeez.
That's insane.
It's crazy.
That's insane.
So you feel comfortable because, the pilot's in the front and I'm in the back. And you feel comfortable because you have faith in these guys. Mm-hmm. So there was not any concern in that area.
Right.
And when we took off, he went straight up. Like, we got up and then he went straight up without a warning.
Right.
And you're smashed back against the seat, and literally, like, the steering wheel would, I had a steering wheel in the back and he had his. And you couldn't.
Did yours work? Did your steering wheel work?
And I've got a good story for that. But it's almost like the little cars at the state fair where they ride and the steering wheel doesn't do anything. So I literally couldn't move my hands forward to even grab anything. I just was back, and they had a video on, and so your face is smashed. And so is his, but he's used to it.
Sure.
And there's a breathing method that you use to keep air in your diaphragm area so you don't pass out. Now, the guy before me, there was 2 of us that did it. The guy before me flew in a different plane, and he passed out, lost his cookies, everything, the whole 9 yards. So then when I'm getting on, I'm thinking, oh God,
no.
Whatever you don't, you just don't lose your
together,
cookies.
Right?
Yeah,
that's right.
So we did that, and we flew around, and then he said, you want to fly upside down? And I wasn't going to say no, but I kind of said, like, I'm not thinking, not really. So he just turns you upside down,
right.
And he flies. And so the whole time I'm just trying to survive, and he's just talking to me like nothing's going on. And I really couldn't get words out of my mouth. So we flew upside down for a while. Then we went right side up, and then we did a bunch of loops and stuff. Then he took off, we're up, I don't know, probably 20,000 feet. And then he went straight up in the air, probably another 15. Then he just killed the engine.
Oh, my.
I would have been terrified.
Yeah.
Absolutely terrified.
We went up, and he goes, I'm going to shut her off for a while.
Like, please
Hope it
don't.
starts.
Please don't.
And I said, shut her off for a while. And he said, I'm going to kill the engine.
You could get those words out.
We
Yeah.
literally went straight up, and he just shut it off, and we just fell.
Oh, my gosh.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. And then he kicked it on and just took off.
Right.
And so this went on for about 30 minutes. And finally, I'm beat. I literally was the most
been all
exhausted I've
stressed,
been
yeah.
in my life.
Sure.
Just almost fatigued, sweating, and I didn't. I got to a point where I was close to losing my cookies, but I recovered.
Right.
So I knew I was okay there. But now, like, I'm sweating, and like I literally felt like I ran a marathon. I can't stay awake.
Right.
Like I'm
Just that tired, yeah.
my body's gone, so I couldn't stay awake. So anyway, so I said, let's just fly fast, because I love to go fast. And I said, no, let's not do any more loops. Let's just fly fast. So we just took off and went fast as we could go. We came all the way up north of Stillwater, around in here, because we came out of Tinker Air Force Base right outside of Oklahoma City. Mm-hmm. So it all ended with this part of it. It was pretty cool. So we're flying around all that, and he said, you want to fly over the stadium? I said, sure, okay. So we fly over the stadium. And he says, do you want to fly us back? Because we're at like 40 minutes. He said, we're going to head back and land. And I said, I guess. He goes, here's what we'll do. When we get to the stadium and we go over it, all line us up to where we're facing south, like we're going back to Tinker Air Force Base. And he said, I'm going to take my hands off and just put them right here, and you've got the jet. So this toes that way, this goes that way, but like a half inch is like that.
Yeah.
So it's not like you have to turn.
Right.
Like if you want to move, you just barely touch it. And he said, that always obviously goes up, that goes down. So you got it. And I said, well, what if I do it a little too much? He goes, it's not going to hurt anything. Just know that if you do this an inch, you're going down.
Right.
And if you do that an inch, you're going to go right 90 degrees. So you have to be steady. And he said, I'll let you fly us back. So we got from the stadium to where he said, I'm going to take over and land us at the Air Force Base in 4 minutes.
Oh, my gosh.
Oh, my gosh.
So you didn't get to drive very long.
No, like 3 minutes. And, I grew up here, so I know everything. And we were low enough. And we went from the stadium basically to what would be past Edmond.
Right.
In 4 minutes.
Sure.
That would have been the longest 4 minutes of my life.
Yeah.
I'm like, am I on course? Am I on course?
No, but anyway, that was a really cool deal. That's a once in a lifetime.
Right,
Anybody that gets that opportunity, I'd highly recommend it. There's just nothing like it. But you learn to respect what they do.
Sure. You bet.
It never bothered him.
Right.
So,
Coach, you mentioned when he shut off the engine, and that actually reminded me of a scene in a movie you recently watched, 7 Days in Utopia. Mm-hmm. They're flying the plane, and the engine, they're like, oh, just kidding, the engine was off. That was the issue. What resonated with you about that movie?
how'd you know I watched that?
I have my moles, my sources.
Wow, that's kind of scary.
It is. RA would be the initials.
So the 7 Days in Utopia is an awesome movie. I'd highly recommend it for anybody. And so I sent the information to all three of my sons and said, you need to, it's only like an hour and a half. You need to watch this movie for a variety of reasons, okay? About life and friendships and willingness to meet other people and the generation, Robert Duvall, I think's who it was, to pass information to the next generation, and then showing that at some point he would be able to pass that down. And the other thing I liked was the small town of people taking people in.
Sure.
That was cool. But one of the best movies, you don't see a lot of movies now that don't have violence, because unfortunately with the next generation, that's what people want to see. Just a really good, solid, clean movie about life, and had some Christian values in it. I'm a Christian. I believe in that. That part was encouraging to me, and I think it was really good.
So SFT, right? And so I had watched it, and but the whole message of that whole movie was just bigger than athletics. It's bigger than the golf game. It's bigger than the scoreboard, and it doesn't define us, whatever that score is at the end of the day. And so to me, it was just, I went home and watched it. R.A., Mr. Allen is the one who shared that with me.
I got you. Okay.
That you had watched that. So I went home and watched it, and I think Meg watched it last
I watched
night
it yesterday as well.
Yeah,
I wanted
good.
to. Yeah.
And so it was incredible. I mean, it was just such a, you don't see those movies like that anymore. I mean, it had value to me. And so.
Yeah, and you've been around our program for a year now, so you know that, and it's interesting, the timing of the movie. Mm-hmm. So in dealing with my 17-year-old that's playing at the high school over here, I noticed him over the last 10 to 12 days prior to the game the other night, his personality changed. He's very social, very outgoing. I mean, all the kids are different.
Right.
And he's a social butterfly. You see him all the time in the weight room. He loves to talk to people. He'll walk in here now and have a conversation with anybody. Well, he went quiet for about 2 weeks and changed completely. I knew something was wrong. And there was a lot of social media interaction going on between the team they were going to play, just normal students. And I don't know how it works, but using Twitter to contact some of their players. And it was kind of out of the ordinary, but it was bothering him.
Right.
And I watched that show, and I was able to talk to him about if you can't keep your mind clear and you let others influence and get in your head, you lose your power.
Sure.
We all do as humans.
You bet.
And sometimes we forget that. The very most powerful thing we have is our mind.
Control.
And when other people get in our mind and distract us, we lose that power.
Sure.
We lessen who we are. And I was able to use that movie, even though I'm in the profession of doing it every day.
Right. But your dad, too.
That's right.
Yeah.
And so it's different with him.
Right.
They see me different. He doesn't see me as a coach. He
Sure.
sees me as a dad.
Right.
And what happens is, like, there's been times during his career, he's like, I need you to get me a quarterback coach to help me. Well, I coached quarterbacks for 30 years. So
You don't know what you're doing.
Pretty good one right here.
I'm talking about, and he
You're
told
just
me,
dad.
he said, I need you to get me a real quarterback coach.
Right.
Oh, I got you. So I was able to use that simple thing that they used in the movie is don't let people in your head, and you got to get that out of there. And that's why that was such a great movie.
Right. So what's funny about Gage is I'd ran into him probably maybe 3 weeks ago. And though being from Greenwood, my folks still live there and all that, I told him in the weight room, I was like, Gage, I said, here's the deal, you play Greenwood. He goes, yeah, I know, like in 3 weeks. And I said, I expect a victory. And he said, yes, sir, it'll happen, So even though I sat on the Greenwood side, I was yelling for the Stillwater Pioneers, right? So I thought he played great too.
He did. He did. He played good.
But great story, just as far as, and it was so relatable to that movie because that's what that kid needed. I mean, he just needed to be regrounded, So
this generation of young people, the students on this campus, they need to understand that. There's so much more out there. When we were, and she's young, but when we were being raised, we didn't have this stuff. So whatever our parents, our teachers, our pastors, or our coaches told us, we believed.
Right, sure.
My parents could have told me the earth was flat. I would have believed them.
You bet.
Because I didn't have a way to get any information.
Right.
Young people now get most of their information from their phones.
Right. Sadly, it's false, a lot of it.
And it's the thing that I don't like about it, and I don't want to get off on this. I could talk for 3 hours on it, but they see things on the phone, on social media, and it makes them feel like everybody's hunky-dory and everything's great.
Right.
It's not the way life is.
No, not at all.
Every one of us have issues going on.
Everybody.
Families have issues. Individuals have issues. Married couples have issues, raising children. And so much on social media is all these people are doing great, and why am I having a struggle with this math class, or why am I having a struggle with my girlfriend, or why am I having a struggle with my coach, when everybody else is doing so good?
Right,
well, that's not the way life is.
Not at all.
So this generation of young people need to understand that their headspace needs to stay clear, and they need to realize that that's just part of life.
Right.
Life is a marathon.
Sure.
There is no short races. We deal with it all the time, right? I mean, and as we get older, I mean, all we do is solve one issue and go to the next.
You bet. You bet.
But if we don't have faith and believe in the system and believe in whatever our faith is, that's where people struggle because they don't have anything to hang their hat on.
Right.
And that's why influences by adults, teachers, coaches, parents is so important.
It is. True.
Coach, I know you're a busy guy, so you don't want to take up too much more of your time. You have a game to finish prepping for. But in your last answer, I was just thinking about advice. What is the greatest piece of advice you've ever received, whether as a kid or an adult?
So the advice that I've received that I use now when I am put in a position to hire somebody to work in our building is if you have loyalty, okay, and I tell this to my oldest son who's out there in the career world. If you're loyal to whoever you're supposed to be loyal to, if you're a hard worker and you do more than you're asked to do, and you're productive, find a way to be productive. And here's what young people don't understand. To a certain extent, doesn't have anything to do with intelligence. Because you'll hear young people say, well, he made a 32 on his ACT and he's smarter than me and that's why he's doing better. Very little in life with success has to do with that. It's loyalty, it's hard work, working with others and being productive. And so I've taken that concept, which has been really good advice, and then when I've started to hire, I've been the head coach now 18 and a half years. And in the last 6 or 8 years, I realized if you hire people that'll do those 3 things, they can do any job because they're willing to do what it takes to be successful. That's what we call discipline in our organization. There's 2 ways to be disciplined. Is the willingness to do whatever it takes to be successful at something that's important to you. That's discipline, because it's hard to do, right? We all struggle with that. We don't want to go to bed on time. We stay up too late. We don't stay focused. We get caught up in things that don't really matter. But being disciplined to be to work hard, to be loyal and be productive is the best advice I had. And so when I hire people that'll do those 3 things, they end up being great in this program because we can mold them into whatever we want.
Coach, so we're going to end here real quick, but I just wanted to say, so I am fortunate enough to be in the position I am, and I do get to watch practice. I get to watch the interaction with the players, the interaction with the coaches, and, you say it, and a lot of people hear it, but they're like, well, that's just Coach Gundy's view. But when people from the outside see it and feel it and just are blown away by it, I can honestly say that it's just such an incredible experience. The whole organization over there, from Coach Glass down to Jamie to Rachetti to all the other coaches to Coach Dunn, everybody, you've assembled a great team. I respect every one of those guys, and just makes me extremely proud to be a part of OSU. So when I talk to people from Arkansas, Razorback fans and Texas fans, I had a bunch there this weekend, it's easier to know that what we have going here is special, and they don't have that.
Well, you're basically a former coach and teacher, and you've been around young people. You've raised a lot of children, and so you've seen that part in your life. And we can't control the final landing spot, whether people like it or not. I can't control the scoreboard.
Sure.
So, in my position, we've graduated 482 football players since I've been the head coach. Mm-hmm. I feel like that I'm responsible for that. What's on the scoreboard at the end of the game, sometimes the ball bounces a different way. Sure. I can't really be as responsible for that. Now, we're going to be prepared. We're going to work hard. We're going to do all the things that we've talked about here for the last 25 minutes. And in the end, what I'm going to be held accountable for, and in our organization, we don't use that word I. This is a me, sure, and not a me. This is a we concept. I'm going to be held accountable for what Spencer Sanders is doing 6 years from now, 10 years from now, and 15 years from now.
You bet.
What he does here is really his responsibility because it's what he puts into it.
Sure.
So we have to groom young people, and we have to teach them how to give back and be productive in society. That's why I selfishly really enjoy my job, because I have 127 players right now.
Right.
I feel like I can still have some sort of input and some sort of ability to help them for the rest of their lives.
Well, I'll give you one perfect example, and then I promise I'm going to be quiet. So, last year we were playing Baylor, and our best running back, Jalen Warren, is hurt. I knew he was hurt. Most people really didn't know how bad he was hurt.
Right.
And if he plays that game, we win that game by 2 touchdowns. No doubt in my mind, maybe more. And, I'm sure you probably felt the pressure to put that kid in. He wanted to play, never took his helmet off the whole game. And me knowing what I knew, I was proud that you made a decision not to put him in there, because now that kid's got a chance to start for the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Right.
He goes in that game for, and it was a big game. I mean, it was a championship game and all that. But you know what? It's about the kids. It's about the players. That's why we're all here. It's about the students, right? And so I think about that when I see how good he's doing on Instagram and all this, and how he potentially could be a starter at Pittsburgh. And if you had made a different decision in that Baylor game and put him in, he tears up his ankle for life, and he never gets this opportunity.
Yeah, there's two things with that. The first thing, and this is good information for I'm to the point now in my life where I feel like I can give information to young coaches, young teachers, and young parents, because I've done this for 30 years and made a ton of mistakes and have figured out a way to correct them. It's called experience.
Sure.
So the first thing is to get to that point with what we do with the team. It's about the journey. It's about the heart. It's about January till we play 2 days from now. The journey this team's been on for preparation, all the hard work, all the discipline, all the structure, all the sweat, the headaches, all those things. The journey to get to that point is more important than that point. Most young coaches don't understand that.
Right.
If you keep hanging your hat on that, you're going to be sadly disappointed. See, every Saturday we play college football. Guess what? Half the teams lose and half the teams win.
Every week.
I don't know what to tell you.
Right.
So, and then with Jalen, the doctors told us early in the week that he's not going to be ready to play, and he's telling you he wants to play.
Sure.
And I said, so could this be something that could affect him in his future, in his career? And they said yes. And I said, well, he's not playing then. And it worked out for his benefit.
Right.
Because he's going to make that roster. He's going to eventually play. You know him like I know him. He's so dedicated. He's going to make it, and he's going to set himself up for a great life. Then here's what he's going to do. He's going to come back and bring his family here someday on homecoming, and he's going to be proud he was at Oklahoma State. And then his kids are going to see what we did for him here, and then we have another family member at Oklahoma State. And that just spreads goodwill everywhere. Then we've done our job.
It's excellent. That's exactly right. So, Coach, listen, I want to thank you for coming today. Like I said, you got a game in about 48 hours or less.
Yeah.
I can't wait. My favorite time of the year. But anyway, thank you for coming, and good luck to you on Thursday.
Well, I appreciate it. We probably should do a mid-season update, right?
Sure.
Mid-season, come in here for another 15 minutes.
We'll love that. We'll love to have you back, Coach. Thank you so much. It's been so great hearing your stories. That Blue Angels story was absolutely incredible. I was just captivated the entire time. So really appreciate you being here. And thank you all for listening to this first episode of the new Inside OSU podcast. Once again, he's First Cowboy Darren Shrum. I'm Meghan Robinson. Go Pokes.
Go Pokes.